Hello to my water signs Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. Welcome to the Capricorn full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Cancer rising, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn, happening on Monday the 3rd of July at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. Forgive me. So it's going to be a Monday night full moon. So after the weekend that was, which has a lot of activity bustling around in Cancer, your sign, your first house, the house of the self, the individual, the soul's expression or rising intention. After this weekend of beautiful, possibly connection, definitely communication, I think there's going to be lots that is going to be you're going to be privy to over this weekend. There might somewhere in there be a bit of a feeling of like, something might feel a bit woozy. Neptune stationing retrograde as well. So when that happens, there's always a focus on the planet. So there's going to be like a, whoa, what's that vibe? But I think go with it. And I think welcome it in. This full moon in Capricorn is lighting up, highlighting your 7th house of your nearest and dearest relationships, the VIPs in your crew, the folks that you can rely on and count on and that you love sincerely. And this is beautiful. And I think that this moon is in like great condition, which just means to say that it's kind of fairly clear and vibrant. The moon's not always so comfortable in Capricorn because, as we know, the moon actually rules your sign, Cancer. So in opposition, the moon finds itself in a sign that it's not used to. But I like to think of the sun in Cancer as being like the supportive parent watching the kid with floaties in the swimming pool, being like, you're right, darling, I've got you. You can feel your feelings. And so at a full moon in Capricorn, we can always know and rely that the sun's going to be in Cancer, holding court and sort of making sure that everything's okay. So I think go with it. I think definitely if you have the opportunity, like allow yourself for some deep chats, some big convos about love and about who you love and why you love them. I think that it's going to be a really nice time to celebrate as well. And it looks like, it's like, well, I kind of imagine you on Monday night, 9:40 Monday night after the weekend that was, sitting there and being like, whoa, I've got some gratitude for the ones that I care about. I've got some real, just some simple gratitude for them. What a great time we had and what relationships I've been able to cultivate in this life. I feel really proud of myself for sticking to my Cancerian guns and really working with my cardinal water emotional initiator kind of station, The tarot cards that I'm looking at as I'm talking to you about this, Cancer. So the moon is at 11 degrees of Capricorn, which is the 3 of Pentacles, which talks about a great cohesive, collaborative process. It takes a village, is kind of what I get with this card, like every individual, and you can see there's a model, an artist, and a lecturer. They all have their contribution to make to building this thing. So that's the moon. And the sun is at 11 degrees of Cancer, and the tarot card for that is the 3 of Cups. And that is like raising a glass, coming together with your besties, with your sisters. And I use that in the proverbial sense. I believe that the sisterhood belongs to a multiplicity of different genders. Hopefully you agree with me. Hopefully that's something that you can think, oh yeah, it's true. It has a certain resonance, doesn't it? When you think about your sisters, your sisterhood. And in this life, we develop sisterhood with many different folks in our relationship circles. It doesn't have to be folks that we're blood related to. Sometimes it includes them too, and that's really nice too. So you can see, like, what's to argue with that? You've got everyone raising a glass. You've got a cohesive, collaborative sort of feeling. Also, some probably deep chats about how it does take a village. You know, it does take more. We're sort of moving away from the sort of responsibility on two adult individuals building something and maintaining it. It does. There's a more of a collaborative feeling as we, you know, develop as a culture, which is something to be grateful for as well. Also, it's like all eyes on you. I really want you to celebrate yourself at this full moon, Cancer, as much as you can. Yeah, like obviously we're looking out to our relationships. We're looking out to our seventh house where we do find love and where we do, you know, check the VIPs at the door of our club, you know, but the ability that you have to work with the moon, the ability that you have to really feel its purpose, the moon, you know, as far as I can see it, encourages us to connect with our emotional selves, our emotional body. And sometimes in my experience anyway, there's such a relief that can occur when we finally stir up some emotions that have been maybe a little bit stagnant or a little bit contained. We've had to keep a handle on it, keep a lid on it, because it's been too much to confront or deal with. That can turn into dissociation, that can turn into sort of like so out of body or so out of step with our emotions that we're not even there in the room. That can also talk about the like revelation of different emotions on the way, on the path to finding the ones that are sitting a bit more deeply. I said it in a couple of the other readings, but like fear can often be expressed as anger first. And that's kind of human nature. So that's all right too. All eyes are on you. Celebrate yourself. Everything that I've just said to you, you know, like the back of your hand, you know that that's true. You know that that is part of the beauty of life, and part of your station in this life too is kind of like fronting up and being available for the intricacy of our emotional selves, our emotional ecosystem. So that's your steez, babe. So over this weekend, allow that message to be relayed to you. When Mercury makes that cazimi, that sort of exact conjunction with the sun, and I think that's happening on the 1st of July. Actually, you know what? Neptune's also stationing retrograde on the 1st of July too. So there's going to be, maybe a bit of a jolt to something a bit cosmic in the way that you're expressing yourself too. So yeah, that's another thing. Like if you're sort of like, if you want to express your emotions and love for these nuts, you can get a bit cosmic about it. Like go there, you can talk about whatever you like to talk about. They'll receive it and they'll take it with gratitude. You're not a crazy. Also, the Mercury conjunct the sun is happening on the same day, on the 1st. So that's Mercury brings, direct messages, and the sun is warming up your first house. So yeah, it's like the Cancer appreciation season is what we're calling it, I reckon, Cancer. Like you're doing the work of an army, the work of, you're doing what you are put on here, this earth, to do. And hopefully this weekend will bring with it some like major celebrations. Got a nice tarot card. Yeah. So I got the Queen of Cups. Guess who? Is that you? Or the Queen of Cups is someone who, as her name says, she rules over the suit of cups, which talks all about our emotions. Water. Cancer is a water sign. This is someone that sits at the shore and has that tide lap at her hem, and she's got an bountiful, ever-flowing, overflowing cup of empathy, which is never empty because she doesn't allow that. She will always give out what she knows she's going to receive back, and she is in a state of bliss because her superpower, or her like point of light or reason for being here, is, she's been working on that thing. She knows emotion, she knows love, she knows water, and she's just ready and willing and able to give it out. And she knows that the tide will give it back to her. So that's cute. Also, the Five of Cups is here in the suit of water. This does talk about grief. This does talk about sorrow, doesn't it? The black cloak and the kind of gaze at what has been lost before. You can see here there's 3 cups that have knocked over. And as far as this person can see it, this is like a real moment to grieve. They're lamenting what couldn't be or what is passed them by. What they don't recognize that there is 2 cups just here in the background, and they're full, and they're waiting for when this person has finished their grieving. That's nice highlight, I think, on the complexity of being a water sign too. It's not all love and light and good times. There's a real there's a depth as well. And I think that as a water sign, as cardinal water, the initiator of the thing, you've got space for all of those different colours and shades of our emotional ecosystem. So I wonder, maybe perhaps in this, this Kazemi, this message service that you'll be receiving on the 1st, there might be some things that come up for you about sort of like, lamentation about what couldn't be, or, you may find yourself open to the grief of others. You may find yourself comfortable enough to express some of your own grief. And I think that it's going to be really, really valuable, because we have the Empress coming on round the bend. We have the goddess that is ruled by Venus. Pleasure, art, beauty, love, connection. There's something so like languid about the Empress. There's something really kind of juicy and available about the Empress. There's pleasure and love written all over this. It's got a lot to do with the earth too. I feel something really natural and I love that word, but fecund about the Empress. There's something really rich in the soil of the Empress's garden, and there's a sort of like languid kind of gaze that happens with the Empress too. Contentment. Isn't that lovely? And then the Lovers. 1, 2, 3. There's a choice to be made. There's a choice that maybe has been made, and there's a commitment here. There's a conversation between one and the other, and also someone else as well. Someone with bright red wings. Someone who is bringing with them a beautiful sense of hope. I love this reading for you, Cancer, and I feel really like warm about the whole thing. I really like it, and I really want you to receive all that's coming to you, Cancer. Receive this messaging. And I think that maybe, it's like as much as this full moon is highlighting and lighting up your 7th house, your house of relationships, all eyes are on you. And allow that to happen. Allow that to kind of like, allow the conversations to flow about how your influence in other people's emotional ability is valued, and how grateful they are for you, and how grateful they are that you show up time and time again, as imperfect as you are, as perfectly imperfect as you are. We don't shoot for perfection in this life. It's pointless. It doesn't last very long. You've got to dust it. You've got to give it a paint job, Go for it, Cancer. Really, really feel this. Feel the power of this moon. And then on Monday, when it happens, Monday night, let it all out. Let out all of that gratitude you received. You give it back to the moon. It's going to be really beautiful because you're in such beautiful company. You've got the Lovers and the Empress, the Five of Cups, and the Queen of Cups. Collect the set. That's a pretty good one. There's room for every colour of every emotion to come through. There's room for pleasure and enjoyment and sensuality. And there's a commitment here too. A choice has been made. And it's so. Much love to you, Cancer. If you're still here with me, do send me a little goat in the comments. That would be awesome. It's helping to get the workout and keeping the, slave to the rhythm, feeding the algorithm. I hope to, no, I'll talk about that another time. You can get your tarot read or your birth chart read at umaruby.com. You can send me some tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I'll be with you in 2 weeks and we'll be discussing the new moon in Cancer. So look forward to it. All of Cancer season, all eyes are on you, darling. But this new moon at the crescendo will be like, right, you're rising in tension, your soul's rising in purpose. What is it? Great. What are we bringing in? Great. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So I look forward to that and I'll speak to you then. Take care, Cancer. Bye. Hello, Scorpio rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn. This is happening on the 3rd of July at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So if you are, it's on the Monday night and it'll be after possibly, potentially pretty big, loved up weekend. Cancer season does always, I find, when I look back and think about it, there's always a gateway into some sort of like emotional honesty. That's what Cancer loves to do. Cancer is cardinal water. You're fixed water, so you sort of hold the distance, go the distance. Maybe sometimes can be a little bit rigid on the surface because you're protecting that sort of depth. Whereas Cancer is like, right, floaties on, let's go. Let's activate this space. Let's talk about our feelings. In retrospect, there used to be this part of the year used to be ceremonial for me. There always used to be something that I would engage in as ritual with a group of people that I cared very much about. And so there was always that kind of like major focus on emotions and on connection and on honesty and on sharing secrets and stories and prophesizing love. So that's what we're kind of in the midst of. And the first lunation for this is a full moon in Capricorn. So the sun is in Cancer at 11 degrees and the moon is in Capricorn at 11 degrees. So while the moon might not be so comfortable in Capricorn because it's out of its depth, it would much prefer to be in Cancer. That's the sign that it rules. That's the emotional one. But at a full moon in Capricorn, we can always be fairly kind of confident that there's support from the energy of Cancer too. The sun is like highlighting the Capricornian parts of our life and providing some extra love there. So for you, Scorpio, Capricorn rules your 3rd house, which is where we learn to communicate. It's where we talk it out. It's where we chat it out. It's where we find ourselves in like our place in the village, might be one way to think about it. In Hellenistic astrology, which is one of the ancient forms, it was also called the house of the goddess. And I like that. And I like all of the connotations around talking circles and folk magic and private rituals that are sort of enacted in small groups and things like that. I think that that's really beautiful. And so it might be nice for you to think about your local environment, think about your place in it and how that's been feeling for you. Like if that's been sort of something that's really gelling and you're feeling like, useful and there and available, or if there's things that you just need to have some like much deeper conversations about, some deeper chats, and you can like regain your sense of like identity in the village. Maybe it's changed since the last full moon in Cancer. Maybe you're moving into a new mode, a new zone, and you're having to reclaim some of that identity for yourself. Or from, from your development, the person that you are now might be quite different to who you used to be. And that might be it might be a process of like reintroduction. That could be something that's happening as well. Whatever it is, you can rely on the fact that it's going to be like emotionally, your emotions are going to be well received, and that when you have the talking stick, it's going to be a really beautiful conversation, and you can find that there is room at the inn for you. There is room at the table for you. There's always a space at this table. Might be something that comes up at this time for you, Scorpio. The tarot that I'm looking at as I'm talking about this, I've got two of them. So the sun's at 11 degrees of Cancer, and that's the Three of Cups. So that's celebration with the sisterhood. That's like girls getting together, having a great time. I say sisterhood and I say girls, and that's a term, I use it in the proverbial sense. So it includes the multiplicity of genders you could possibly think of. I don't want to step any toes, but I believe that the sisterhood belongs to a lot of us. And that sentiment of finding folks that you can be yourself in the company of is what we're working with here. This is maybe separate from like a public face, or like a sort of something that's like highly visible and accessible areas. This is something that's much less to do with fronting up. This is private. This is like, who can you be a dag around? Who can you like talk smack with? Who can you like have a great time with? This is the energy of the Three of Cups. This is where the sun is. So this is the beam of light that we're working with at this moon. And the card for 11 degrees of Capricorn is the Three of Pentacles. And that talks to me about collaboration, about disparate skill sets, and about the cohesion of that, and how it takes many different shades and many different colors to make something work. It also talks about the importance of your specific color, Scorpio, your shade, being a beautiful accent to the other shades that are going on in this card. You want to create space and create an environment, create a happening. Everyone's got a different skill set and everyone's got a different contribution to make, don't they? When it works, when you're working with people that are all willing to give. And so your color is really important, and it's really vital to the harmony. So just keep those little ideas in your back pocket as we go through and talk further. I'm going to bring out some intuitive tarot as well, I think, Scorpio. But it's like, it's all I can do to not squirt out some little tears myself giving these readings. There's been a great feeling of hope and optimism and potential to heal in these readings. That's what Cancer does. As bolshy as they might be, and sort of, brash and like invasive as they might be, they're coming from a place of love, and they're coming from a place of wanting to get to the root of the feeling, because once they can understand the root of the feeling, then they can contribute. That's what Cancers tend to do, is they tend to be really great at the emotional self. Sometimes their questions might be a little bit confronting, or, especially for you, Scorpio, you might be like, how rude, like that's none of your business. But if we can identify ourselves in the energy of the other signs too, so if you're a Cancer rising, that's one thing. If you're a Cancer sun, that's your identity. But the reason that I'm learning all this astrological stuff is because it really does bring us back together. It reminds us of how much we have in common with one another, and it gives us the tools to like recognize the skills of our friends as well, and get to sort of get a sense of where they're coming from. Sometimes if we've maybe been a bit out of step with that, let's focus back on that idea of the village. If it's been like, oh, I don't belong here anymore. If that's a choice as well, like then go for it. Like, you know where you belong. If that's the thing, if you're sort of like, this is not my tribe. I don't do this anymore. This is not the people that I wish to invest in any longer. It doesn't resonate. I don't feel it. That's one thing. If that's an autonomous, proactive choice. And I really respect that, Scorpio. But if it's like shying away from a group because you don't feel that you can muster up what you used to muster up to contribute, I'm looking at this Three of Pentacles again. And if you feel that like sort of like, well, I can't, I used to be able to, this was my thing this was my color in the thing, and I can't do that anymore, so I may as well just stay home because I'm no good at it. If that's what you're feeling, forget it. That's not what Cancer's interested in. That's what Cancer will sniff out and probably get to the bottom of really quickly, and they'll probably be a bit offended too. But they're doing it from love. They're doing it from the emotion of love and a willingness and a want to care about you. And they're really providing you with the sort of opportunity that you don't actually have to be anything. Come as you are is some of the most beautiful lyrics that have ever been written in rock and roll history. Come as you are, as a friend, as I want you to be. Fuck. That's your invitation, Scorpio. Come as you are, as a friend, as I want you to be. Your tarot cards are the Queen of Swords. So that's that's cutting to the quick. That's a truth. You can trust this queen because she's not lying to you. She may have been a bit caustic with the info. It may have been like, right, this is how I see it. And that may be a bit sharp. You might be like, oh, ow. But there's magic in that break, because hopefully it's going to shake you out of what you were kind of confusing yourself with about this feeling of like being unwelcome or ineffective or half of who you used to be. That's not interesting to this Queen of Swords. She's like, I know you, I love you, this is what we're doing, come with me. This is what I see, I read it all over you. I've had many of these Queen of Sword friendships in my life. One in particular that I can think of quite clearly of right now. And gosh, I really, really appreciate it. As rattling as it can be to have someone not read you the riot act, but just tell you what they see from their perspective. That's something that we sometimes get a bit shy to do that with our friends. We don't sort of like tell them what we really think. And I wish that we told them more. I think Cancer would probably really wish that we told each other more, but that's how we can kind of register investment. When someone says to you, I adore you, I see this pattern of behavior, this is not what we're doing here. You need to do this, this, and this to build yourself up again, and not to be brave and sort of strong again, but to build back your sense of identity, your sense of integrity. And that might come through something really, really vulnerable. And I think that it might be because the Knight of Cups is all about crying your heart out and all about an emotional offer. There's a bravery with the Knight of Cups. And I'm thinking of Sharon Van Etten now, if you're following my musical references. But there's something really barefaced about the clarity of the emotions with this person. You can talk about it. Queen of Swords you can talk to as well. She's going to be really truthful. Knight of Cups is going to be like, I adore you as well. It's lovely. It's like, sometimes it's really nice just to have some heart to heart, deep and meaningfuls. It's really, really lovely. When you go without them, sometimes you really miss them and you really remember how valuable they were. Sometimes you think, well, maybe I don't have that access anymore. I reckon you probably do, because we got the World after that. And this is tarot telling you, Scorpio, well done. Like, I take my hat off to you and I bow to you. Well done. You've been through the ringer. That was a really difficult cycle that was completing itself, that was coming into this sort of accumulation, this crystallization of finito. And you took it, you learned it, you stayed there, you didn't dissociate, you didn't run away, you didn't do anything like that. You really faced it like the beautiful Scorpio that you are. You know, emotional intensity, it's pretty spooky, but you stood your ground and you allowed it to happen. You allowed the experience. And so the tarot is saying, well done. Can you see that beautiful story? There's magic in this. Sometimes the magician can be an illusionist, you know, a bit deceptive. I don't think so here. I think this Queen of Swords is telling you, reminding you of your own magic, reminding you of the power of coming together, reminding you of the importance of love and friendship and openness and honesty. They're sort of saying to you, there is space at this table for you. This village is not going anywhere without you. You live here. That might be a confronting thing to hear, Scorpio, if you've not been in it, if you've not been feeling it, if you've been completely out of body, out of mind, out of step, wanting to move on, willing to move on. There's a difference between wanting to move on and running away. That I know, for damn sure. That's a lesson that I've learned time and time and time again. And I'm getting to a point where I'm recognizing the difference. And I'm getting to a point where really when I feel at home in myself and I know it's a hack thing to say, but like that sense of belonging comes from the inside too. So if you want to jet set, you want to try different villages, move around the place, try here, there and everywhere, and that's like a burning desire and that gives you like fuel to your fire, by all means, go ahead and do that, Scorpio. But if you're running away because you don't think that anyone loves you anymore and there's no room for you at this dining table and you've effed it up, and what good are you? Then listen to that Queen of Swords, because she's being like, no, mate, shush up. You belong here. We love you. Deal with it. That's your reading, Scorpio. Take it or leave it. I love you as well. Do put a little goat in the comments, won't you, if you're still here with me? That would be very helpful. Also, like, subscribe. You can get your birth chart or your tarot cards or both read by me at umaruby.com. I can receive some tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. It's always very received with such gratitude, not essential. And I'll be with you in 2 weeks and we'll be sort of knuckling down into Cancer season once more. The crescendo of the season is a new moon in Cancer, and that's like lovely for you in terms of your ability to expand your mind. The 9th house is great, and there's a lot of doorways that can open in the 9th, and maybe there's like a sense of adventure. So yeah, this is a bit of a muddled reading, Scorpio, but it feels like there's a push and a pull between staying put and traveling free. So maybe over this weekend, more will be revealed to you. The more you talk about it, the more you open yourself up to the potential of love and understanding and friendship from those around you. Don't know. Love you. You take care, Scorpio. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. Hello Pisces rising, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn happening on the 3rd of July at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So this is happening on the Monday night. This is happening after the weekend that was, and this probably might be a really great moon for you to stand under and howl like the wild creature you are in gratitude and awash with love and understanding and friendship and kindness. This moon is lighting up your 11th house. So for a Pisces rising, Capricorn rules the 11th, which is our sense of community, friendship, good fortune, and humanity itself, the human condition. Our faith in the human condition can be restored in the 11th house if we let it. And the sun in Cancer is lighting up your 5th house of your individual self-expression and your creativity. So I like this, Pisces, and I like to think about the water, the cardinal water, the emotional initiation of Cancer being like a spotlight on your 11th house. Now, there may have been some like wild changes to that space for you over the past period in history. Can't quite say when, but Pluto has been making its slow track through Capricorn since 2008. So depending on what planetary placements you have there in Capricorn, you may have been feeling this sort of like revolt or revolution in terms of your like sense of community. Maybe your identity and community too. That could be something that sort of changed up for you. What I like is that the sun is really encouraging you to be yourself, and as emotional and as articulate as you want to be, you're being encouraged to let it out at this full moon on Monday night. Now, the weekend brings with it a great deal of emphasis on your 5th house, on Cancer, your self-expression. There's a great cazimi, which is Mercury coming into exact conjunction with the sun, I think on the 1st, and also Neptune in Pisces stations retrograde on the 1st too. So it does feel a bit psychedelic, I won't lie to you. It does feel like, ooh, maybe there's going to be like a burst of inspiration, or there's going to be conversations that you have over the weekend that like fill you up again, fill you up with a sense of like belonging in community in the 11th house. The reason I was talking about transformation, my sun is in Capricorn at 24 degrees, so that Pluto transit, I was kind of imagining my chart, so it may not be that obvious for you. What it does do, if we zoom out and we think about Pluto's presence in Capricorn, it affects all of us in some way. It's affecting that sort of like pyramid scheme of capitalism and sort of top-down structures of power and authority sort of toppling like pinballs, you know. That's kind of something that we can probably all identify with, especially now that Pluto's re-entered into Capricorn, and we can see and wait with bated breath to see what might happen and who might get arrested, etc., etc. But zooming right back down onto you, onto this weekend, Pisces, let your freak flag fly. Be your ultimate absolute self. Express yourself from your highest octave of love and kindness and tenderness and emotional vulnerability. You know, obviously you're going to, you know, let the right one in. You're not going to be, you know, freewheeling it and chewing everyone's ear off. But if you're being offered the talking stick, if you're being granted the opportunity to reconnect with community, with folks that you haven't seen for some time, or with a sense of belonging, then I say take it. But look at Cancer and look at how that's affecting your 5th house, which is your self-expression. There's sort of like, you know, some of these messages from Mercury, they might be coming from you. The intel might be landing in your ears in a certain way, Pisces, where you're like, aha, eureka, this is what I'm saying, what I mean, and I mean what I say, and I'm gonna let it out. I'm gonna let it flow. It's a horrible feeling when we feel out of touch with community, especially for folks that have come to rely on it to get by. When we feel not so much sort of isolated by the hand of others, but when we isolate ourselves, or when we cut off, when we disconnect from a sense of like communal involvement, especially for a Pisces that really wants everyone to get along and to sort of intermingle and to share and to get high, you know, all of that kind of stuff. When we feel separated by our own doing or otherwise, it can be really heart-wrenching. And when we zoom out and do think about this sort of, this sense of the human condition, it can really break our hearts when we witness the pain that other people are in, or the continual injustice that rears its head time and again. That can be too much to bear. And so sometimes there is that compulsion to be a recluse, to pull away, to kind of be like our Virgo counterparts in our 7th house, but not in a constructive way, in a way that's like our head's just buried in the clouds or the sand, or we're cut off from all human interaction for fear of the pain. That could be something that happened that you can relate to, Pisces. I think this full moon in Capricorn is like, it's like a Cancerian spotlight. It's sort of like, this is your 11th house. This is what you consider to be the human condition or the human experience, human feeling. This is what it takes to swim in those depths. Enjoy. Enjoy it. Go out. Make some friends. Make friends with yourself again. Remember that the way that you express yourself is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it's something that folks admire in you, and they really love you for it. And they actually were picking up what you were putting down. Translation or otherwise, the essence, the integrity of what you are willing and wanting to contribute to community is the truth. And it's really beautiful and it's really remarkable, and you should be really proud of that idea. So if you've been feeling nervous about re-entry, if you've been feeling kind of that your skill set is not really valuable at this time because there's so many other things that we could be friggin' worrying about in this life. But that's one thing I really want to remind you of, Pisces, as well, is that like now more than ever, you should, I don't know, I sometimes stare out from my window and look at the creativity that's happening in the world right now. It's remarkable. Maybe this full moon might be like a spotlight for you to like get back in the mix, and you don't get out there again. Oh no, I don't want to be like, it's not a frivolous thing to want to work in, the creative space, or want to work in the, have philosophical and spiritual conversations. If you make music, to make music, that's not something to be passed off as frivolous at this time. The greatest, the most beautiful art is made through times of crisis and times of dissent. People rely on that because, if you're feeling it, Pisces, you can pretty much be guaranteed that everyone's feeling it. You can often feel the energy in the room, right? So this tension, this sort of worry, this like fear of the future, fear of each other, fear of the 11th house, you're not the only one that might be feeling this. And so what better way to contribute to that by sprinkling a little bit of magical fairy dust, by creating a space, by creating a bit of magic, even if it's just for one night, you know what I mean? That's valuable, and that's like great work to engage in during this period of history. Go for it. Your self-expression in Cancer, your creativity, your artistry, your sensuality is like wearing the costume of Cancer, wearing that beautiful, honest, nurturing outfit, and it's shining the spotlight up onto your 11th house in Capricorn, being like, go on, darling, do it. You're being encouraged to get out there and to be yourself in community, to forge community. Also, community takes work too. And, if you've got Capricorn in the 11th house, you're not unfamiliar with that concept. You know about that. Capricorn is the sign that will work until they drop. They're continually making, producing, perfecting. And so if you think about that Pisces rising in relationship to your 11th house, all of that hard work is to better feed and service community, isn't it? I hope it is. It sort of sounds pretty lovely. The tarot that I got is Judgment, and I got the Nine of Cups, and I got the Wheel of Fortune. What a beautiful way to end my day of readings. The Judgment card arrives to us, and it says to us, are you going to live a life half lived? Because you can, and no one will hold that against you, Pisces. If you want to get a haircut and get a real job, by all means, do so. If you want to reskill and find something that you can think is more practically useful for the community, then do so. If you want to throw all of your other pursuits in the bin and become small and become quiet, then do so. No one's going to judge you for that, except for tarot. And it's not a judgment that puts you in purgatory or has you in any feeling of damnation. It's just a question, because the silver life, the magical life, the glittering creativity of this life, it's a pretty brave offer to take. And so for some folks, they take it, they can't do it, and so they set it down again. And that's okay. That's no judgment. You do whatever you need to do to regulate those emotions, to feel safe enough. And I was in company with a really lovely old friend that I hadn't seen for years, and they said to me, you know, you can pick up what you've set down at any time. That's the thing about art and creativity, is that you work on it for the majority of that time in private, in practice, private practice. And hopefully there's something in your muscle memory and in your brain that helps you realize that you've developed a skill, you've developed a practice that you can set down. And if you set it down, that doesn't mean that it's over, and that doesn't mean that you've failed. That means that you're resting. And when the inspiration strikes, you can pick it back up again and you can continue. To set it down doesn't mean that you have to get a haircut and get a real job. It doesn't mean that you have to pack it all in and forget that you ever tried. It doesn't mean that you're a failure at all. It means that actually you're developing and you're growing a bit of a sense of regulation around how much energy you're expelling and how much you need in reserve to maintain your health. That's actually really powerful. The Nine of Cups is you, Pisces. That's someone who is sitting and assessing all that they know, all of the emotional slings and arrows and pitfalls and successes and journeys. You can almost see this sort of collection of cups there as like ceramics, you know, it's sort of like a collection of like handmade, beautiful craft. It's sort of like, yeah, I actually made this. I devoted my living, waking hours to thinking about love, thinking about connection, thinking about kindness, magic, art, and creativity. And what better way to spend my time? I can't think of any better way. I'm developing the skills to work with and work through some of that internal criticism. That's all right. That's a life's work. That's not anything. You ask anyone at any level of success too, you ask them, like, it never goes away. It never goes away. It's a lifelong commitment to this work of emotional regulation and self-care. It's not something that you sort of ace the test and be like, right, I'm over all of my traumas. Brilliant. It doesn't happen that way. But think about your life as well in these terms, Pisces. What was your impulse? What was your reaction to what you've been through? It was to overtly express love. It was to find folks that care about you, that you care for, and express yourself through the act of love and creativity. I think that's beautiful. Some people react to trauma in different ways. They retaliate, they act out, and that's understandable too, isn't it? We don't hold that against them. Think about what you've been through, Pisces. Your reaction was to find love. I think that's really beautiful. You've got the Wheel of Fortune. It begins now. Brand new trip around the wheel, Pisces. I think it's really great. I think it's lovely. Get together with your friends on this weekend if you can. Raise a glass for love and get stuck into the idea that your labours for humanity are valuable. You're putting beauty into this world, Pisces. There's nothing sweeter and more noble than that, I would suspect. That's your reading. Thanks, Pisces. If you're still here with me, please put a goat in the comments. That would be great in honour of Capricorn season. I'm going to be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about the new moon in Cancer. So we'll be focusing on your creativity. We're going to really get stuck into that studio and strategize how we can make that work, how we can, get inspired, what we're going to create together. And I can read your birth chart and your tarot cards at umaruby.com, and you can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. Thanks for your company, Pisces. I always appreciate it so much. Much love to you. Enjoy the full moon. Call me if you need to on Monday. We'll be in our trackies together, weeping our eyes out. It'll be gorge. Much love. Take care. Bye.